All right, welcome. So today I want to share some tips and tricks on building a solo trap, operating a solo trap, and everything about solo trap. That little tips that I picked up over the years. I've been getting a lot of emails and messages from people about how to build solo trap, what to look for, and what they need to do. So I'm going to just share some of the tips. I'm sure there are a lot of people out there with more tips. I'm not covering everything out there, but I will talk about I will discuss some of the things that was successful for me. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. So first thing, as far as solo trap go, a lot of people ask, at what might are you consider solo trap and whatnot? And in my opinion, the might really doesn't matter as long as you're able to bait somebody to send you a solo hit. So you could be a 500 million might, and if you could still bait somebody to send a solo hit, great, you just trapped them. But I will say this: lower the might, easier to bait someone. Because if I'm 300 million might, then people are going to start to think, okay, that castle obviously open T4, and it may be a griffin trap and other type of traps. But if I'm sitting at like 70, 80 million might, then they'll think it's a trap, but they will never think of it as, or they may think of it as a trap, or they may not, but they will never assume that it's a T4 account or anything of that sort. So I've had all different types of traps, and up to this point, lower the might definitely easier to trap. So this particular account that I'm on right now, this one right here is 39 million might, and it's C17. So with this particular account, I'm actually building a teen trap account. But and I will show a couple of other accounts at different mites as well during this video. But let's go ahead and start with what's important with the trap, or what's something to consider when you think about building a trap. So trap is not a solo trap. You don't just say, just because you got zero, you don't all of a sudden turn direction and say, you know what, I think I'm going to build a solo trap. Because if you are going to build a low might solo trap, which are my favorite type, basically you need to think about building that solo trap from the C1 as soon as you start the account. So you want to start the account with a solo trap in mind. And reason being is a lot of new people, they'll turn in, let's say, these are things called turf quest, and it will add mites like this 213, 319, and as you do more research, bigger might it will end up if you receive or turn in or claim these turf quests. Now, the negative side of it, yes, you don't gain the experience, which can definitely have your player level go up much faster rate. So for me, that's something that I give up every time I build a solo trap. I My player level moves up very slow, but these mites are not added. And you could, I think initially you can add some. For me, I like to stay under 500k might on quest turned in, and if you go in here, you can actually see the quest. It has 463,669 mites, and this is pretty much an empty calorie situation where you just added that 464,000 might, and it does absolutely nothing for you except just have might, and I guess it added some EXP points for your player level. But EXP you can eventually earn without having to turn in any of these quest numbers. So if you look at 463,000 might, it's not a lot, but a lot of the castles will have them into millions and millions. I think some of them I've seen like 15 million might quest turned in, which if you talk about even 5 million, that's potentially 2.5 million T1 backline that you can actually add. So that's the big factor that it plays. Every additional might that you take in, it could be the troops lost for you or troops that you're unable to add because you might get too big. So that's one of the things. Definitely, I would not. Another thing that could actually you want to think about from the get go is hero armies. You notice I have 1.187 million might in hero armies, and let's go over to the heroes. And if you look here, I haven't turned in or I haven't hired many heroes, especially like Trickster, Shade Tracker, and whatnot. I also have not hired Scarlet Elementalist, and I stopped grading some of these bottom heroes just because I don't want to gain any more hero mites. So only ones that I'm working on now are Oathkeeper, Demon Slayer, Bombing Goblin, Snow Queen, and Rose Knight. Those five are the ones that are on my wall, and those are the ones that I will grade up to gold, and no others will go above what they are currently, and that's to keep my mic down. So it's every little mic counts on this particular. If you're starting a solo track, so again, going back to the situation where I say, when you start a solo trap, you need to start it with beginning in mind, because without thinking about it, you would have already hired all the heroes. You would have already turned in all the quest mites and such. Another thing you want to think about: what type of trap do you want to be? For me, this particular account, I picked a teen trap account, which stays at C17. And the main reason why I'm building a C17 is it's a fairly new kingdom, Kingdom 750, and basically there's no more gifting from outside the kingdom, and so they're unable to grow that quick or as quick as they used to, not reaching billion might in 30-day period type of thing. So it actually does take a little more effort to get to the T5. So I figure with the C17 Teen Trap, I can Fury all I want, because if we look at Battle Fury time for 17, it's only 4 minutes, 5 minutes at C18. So max out push is at C18, but I've decided on C17. So 4 minutes is all I have. And so, which allows me, as long as I can take a solo hit if from somebody, there's no way they have enough time to set a rally and me still be in fury. So it allows me to attack anything I want that I can actually burn and still not worry about getting rallied. Because once my fury runs out, I can just simply shield up and that's it, and then go into fury once the rally is over. So let's look at my research here. This is another very big important thing you want to think about. Just don't go starting research everywhere on everything, like military command. Nothing here and nothing here. There's basically, all I'm researching is military side and familiar, and familiar is just because of my personal preference, and reason why I'm doing familiar is for the pack 3, which gives me like Trickstar. On this, I can gain additional 10% on range attack if I take it to Elder. Same thing by doing Nossaris for Cav attack here, and Mo Shaman for infantry attack for 10%. And then also with Mo Shaman, I can actually increase my infirmary capacity, because with this particular Teen Trap account, I cannot take these infirmary into C25, so I will end up at like 260, 270k max infirmary space with this, or maybe 300 at max. But good thing is we have sanctuary to save us from overflows. Now, of course, what I'm losing by having a teen trap account is if you actually took infirmary to C25, then I would actually get Army HP 5% for each one. And having so many would actually be very good for your Army HP. But in this case, since I'm C17, I get the benefit of not staying in Fury for more than 4 minutes, but I lose I lose the Army HP. And reason why I decided to build it is because I think with the C17 Teen Trap would actually work in a closed kingdom. I know for sure it will not work outside on open kingdom against Titans. It will burn easy and they can basically zero you within a couple of hits. So I would never do that, but with the Teen Trap, in a closed kingdom, definitely I think it's worth it and could be it's doable. So yes, again, we're looking at player level. I'm at player level 53 right now, and reason being is because even though I'm 39 million might and it's actually been how many days? 25 days. Then I'm only level 53 is because I haven't turned in too many requests, turf quests. Now let's look at my might distribution. If we look at it, this is nothing but a paper castle with whole lot of troops. So if we look at it, my troops are actually almost 33 million might, and I'm only 39 million in total, which means almost I'm only worth about core might's only about 6 point something or 6.7, 6.8 million might, which basically makes it like 80% troop might and nothing else. And most likely that's what it's going to be. So that's what I'm working with. Another thing you want to know about trapping is your gear. You want to basically have a good pre-level 60 gears, but you want to also prepare for level 60. So you can see I'm building level 60 gears like my bumblebee helm, and my firewall plate and dragon's talon, whatnot, and then other great accessories here along with my great sword. So all of that is getting prepared. But for now, my pre-level 60, I have indulgent visage for that at gold. And I can't, because it's C17, I can't take it into mythic because breakthrough research you cannot do until you get to above C17. So in order for me to do breakthrough research for mythic equipment, I actually have to be Academy level 19, which would actually give me 6 minute fury time, which will not work for me as a teen trap. So that's what's happening here. Another thing that I'm missing out is because I don't hire a lot of these heroes above whatever I have on the wall, I don't get to perform that well in Coliseum because I can't throw in tracker in here and things like that. So basically, I'm stuck with these heroes, and that's what it's going to be. But since it's a new kingdom, I'm actually able to get into 3 digit number ranking, and so I'm earning about 120 every 3 hours or so. So it's not too bad. But again, Teen Trap, this one should be in closed kingdom. I have 300 million um, might Chinese guild now, or three castle within Chinese guild. He's actually burnt me twice just for me testing. I'm trying to test to make sure. But with the last test, he actually sent Cav T4 full T4 counter attacks. So and he only walked away with 168, which means I'm getting very close. So I think once I put on about 10 more million might here, about 50 million might as a C17, I think I should be able to cap him. And so if you're able to cap the biggest guy in the kingdom or the strongest guy in the kingdom, that means basically there's nobody in the kingdom that can solo hit you. And that itself is going to allow me to roam around free fury all I want and attack whatever, and still them not being able to rally me. And that's the whole point of my team trap. But I will again share my other trap accounts, and of course this video is about trapping, solo trap, making solo traps, not about particular type of solo trap. So here again, we got that, and on the wall, what I have are these are my pretty standard. I have same set of heroes on my wall in all of my solo trap. I don't, and they're all F2P heroes. I usually don't purchase any paid heroes. Yes, it would be great, but I just don't do them because I feel like F2P heroes that I have on this wall is good enough to trap almost anybody out there. So I have 2 infantry units up front with the HP, giving me Oathkeeper and Demon Slayer, and I have Snow Queen, Bombing Goblin, and Rose Knight. And Bombing Goblin and Rose Knight being Army HP, which gives, or Army boost, which gives me stats across all my troops. And that is really important. If I actually had 5 different army heroes, I would actually put 5 army heroes, which gives me 20% army attack all across the board per hero, right? Okay, so, and you will notice what's missing here is a familiar slots, and that's because with this I do not have familiar slots because it's C17 again, but with other traps you will see familiar slots and familiar sitting in there. But that's how I set up my hero. And important thing about solo trap, do not gain any mites through wall or traps, because a lot of people think because it's solo trap they keep thinking about these traps here. These traps are absolutely worthless. They add might for nothing. So upgrade defense here. It says wall repair, wall durability, all of that stuff. Or we have defense. We have traps here. We have yep, all these trap tier 1 traps, tier 3 traps, wall strength. I will guarantee you, even if you had 2 million wall HP, it's not going to hold against T5 hits or even T4 hits sometimes. So if you add this, it's going to add millions and millions of might, especially towards the end. And same thing with the economy. Some people will give up some for construction speed and whatnot, but eventually your construction will get done. I don't know if that boost that you get from the research with added might is really worth it or not. And a lot of people will argue saying, hey, that's really not that much might. Here it's 90 might and whatnot. But all of these little things eventually add up. And so I personally do not recommend doing anything but military and familiar. So now as far as a monster hunt, I had to do up to level 2 just because of that voyage deal that we had to do. But now we look at defense. Many people will make a mistake and start doing massive defense research. This is the worst tree you can research because it absolutely does nothing for you. It takes up time, and then it also just basically adds might for nothing. And for solo traps out there, don't be shy, don't hoard your research speed, because even at the beginning or whatever it may be, just use them all up, because eventually you run out of researches to do because you have to stop at certain point as a solo trap. So just use up all your research speed. Like for even here, I pretty much stopped doing any more research because of added might. And if we look at my research speed, it's actually starting to stack up again. I had all nothing but zero. So let's go for military research. Here, I did what I could on max for C-17. So I did an intelligence report, quick maneuver, and these are not required. I only did it because I wanted more information when I go scouting and hitting smaller castles. But you will also notice on next line, I didn't do any siege except to get to down here and open up T3s or whatever may have been the case. And you'll notice that on the attack, I'm stuck at level 7 because I have to be 18 in order for me to move up next. And I may consider in the future moving up one to CS18 just because it is just still 5 minutes. So I may do that. Now, next, you'll notice defense is only up to 2. And this is the big reason why I haven't moved up to 8 either or 18, because once I go above 7, I would actually have to research this into all the way to level 7 in order for me to research offense to 8. But up to level 7, I don't have to go beyond level 2 on defense research. And then, of course, HP is definitely worth it. So that's why I took it all up to level 7, except Siege, because I'm not using Siege. I don't have, there's no such thing as Siege failings or Siege is fighting for you, except in the back. And then I researched T3 just because within this kingdom, initially we were fighting, and T3s are, of course, valuable and needed those. But eventually I will get rid of a lot of the T3s, maybe just some sprinkle just to have it as a back attack power. And you'll notice I didn't do any army research because basically in order for me to do this on Army 1 offense, I need to go ahead and research this, which is 93,000 might. And so I may, but if we look at it, it gives me level 1 at C, or 1% at C-17. So I don't know if 1% is enough for me to do anything about army. And then 18 will give me another percent, I think. So see, unless I'm deciding to go all the way to C-25, I don't know if that army research is worth the added might. And that's where I'm sitting there. And then next thing, only thing I did was familiar up to level 5 just to open up pack 3. And then of course other ones you cannot. And you will notice this, I haven't done any. A lot of people will also research this because they think it's going to cost them a lot less to build the troops. But you know what? It's not going to be worth it. It's going to add might. Don't do it. And then, of course, quick swap is always great. But with C-17, again, you got to be minimum Academy 22 in order for you to open that up. So that's basically what my trap looks like, and basic points that, again, going over it is that you should start the build with a trap in mind. You can't just go mid build into different type of castle that you were building and then decide to convert over to solo trap. It's going to be really tough because you probably added on all kinds of might from the get-go. Okay, so let me go ahead and I will be back with a different login to a different account to introduce you to a bigger trap. Now for this particular one though, I will share troop comp and troop composition. There's no specific troop composition that's saying, hey, that's the way you should be done. Basically, if your troop comp, whatever you have, works, then it's the correct troop comp. So some people will say all T2s across all or a lot of T2s and T3s. But for me here, especially for this particular small account, what I'm building is a large front T2 front, and then my T1 in the back line, and then some siege. So this particular one, you will see good amount of T3, and I may decide to keep these or I may not. It really depends on the might that it's going to add on and how bad that T4 hit's going to be. But basic principle for me here is have a lot of T2 infantry front above 2 million, maybe 2.5 or 3 million, and then have about 4 million each on T1 on range and calves for this particular account. And I think that would allow me to easily cap T3 players and some of or lower end of lower spectrum of T4 players as well. So, and with this particular comp that I have here, I was able to I burnt, but I was almost able to cap him. He only 168 walked away from me, so we're getting really close. Okay, so I will be back with a different one or different login and share with you that particular what my thought process was building that particular trap account. See you soon.